You are tuning in to the You Are Loved podcast, where we hope to bring love and kindness to the world.
Welcome everyone to another You Are Loved podcast, where we have an amazing Sarah Mack. Sarah is remarkably intuitive and creative. On top of that, she's efficient and flowing in her creativity. Sarah's notes and questions have been impeccable, and more than that, immeasurably impactful in me generating copy. I feel authentic and empowered and that attracts the clients I deeply deserve to work with. Sarah's coaching on copywriting led to an effortless big ticket sales within weeks of working together. I guess that was a review, huh?
Yeah, that's not my bio.
Okay, it got all mixed up in the email, so sorry about that. Okay, I can just okay. This whole episode needs to be scratched. Okay, all right. Okay, this is it is live anyways, but I'm gonna edit it and go from there. Okay, all right, here we go. Sarah Mack is a writer and creative business mentor who works with coaches, healers, and artists, entrepreneurs who are ready for six-figure years, more freedom and fun in life and business. She supports creatives to sell high-ticket coaching offers and digital courses and attract dream clients on repeat by sharing your authentic storyline. She's about to publish her first book. She has performed her original music internationally and traveled to 18 countries since starting her business in 2015. Originally from the UK, Sarah now lives in Los Angeles. She's also a singer-songwriter and a host of Creative Magic Club podcast. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thank you.
So, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for jumping on today. Really appreciate it. So tell us what brought you over to the United States?
Yeah, it's kind of a long story. Obviously, I'm from the UK. I was working in film and TV, and I graduated from my undergrad, started working, was getting good jobs and working in big Hollywood movies and TV shows, but I was kind of like, is this it? Am I just gonna work in my career for the rest of my life? This doesn't sound that fun to me. So I was like, I want to have some more adventures. And I actually first tried to move to Berlin, but that was in 2008. I was trying to get a job as an English teacher. I applied to 150 jobs and didn't get anything.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it kind of forced me back to the UK. I found a job teaching English in the UK, and I did that, saved up some money. And I applied for a visa to go and work out in Canada because I knew that there was a big film industry in Vancouver. I knew that it was a little bit less rainy and, there was beautiful mountains, and it would just be, a bit of a fun adventure.
Uh-huh.
So that's what I did. I bought a one-way ticket out to Vancouver, and I ended up working in for 5 years during the summers in the film industry there. And I just fell in love with living in Canada. And, it's so beautiful. I love the nature. I love that there was a thriving film industry there. I love that people were just kind of so laid back and friendly. And it was so easy for me to get work there. And I applied to do my master's in film study pretty much, honestly, because I just wanted another reason to continue living in Canada. I'd made so many friends. I was having such a great time. So I moved to Montreal, did my master's, and that's where I met my now husband. He was my roommate. He answered my ad on Craigslist for a roommate,
wow.
Moved in, we fell in love, and he moved to the US to go to medical school. So, it took a while for me to come to the US because it's not the easiest country to emigrate to. I was like, you need to put a ring on my finger so that we can continue this relationship. So we got married. I got my green card. We lived in New York for 8 years, and we just moved to LA in like a year ago. So yeah, it's been a crazy adventure.
That's great. That's exciting. A lot of times people from like other countries and stuff like that, especially like the UK, because it's probably easy to country hop over there, or seem to be like way more adventurous than a lot of people in the United States. Like there's just don't really leave the United States. And I think that's unfortunate. I've been to different Caribbean countries, but I've always wanted to go to the UK and like Paris and Rome and Greece and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I
So,
think the motivation to travel is very high when you live on a tiny island that rains all the time.
yeah.
I think the US has so many, has great weather, has so many adventures just within the
Yeah.
one country. I know a lot of people judge Americans for never like traveling as much. But now that I live here, I'm like, oh, I understand why. Like there's so much to see within America. It's like
Yeah.
50 countries within one,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely not the same as going and experiencing a completely different culture. And yeah, there's so much to explore out there. It's definitely worth the trip.
Yeah. I love that like you just bought like a one-way ticket. Like you just knew that you were going to just make it work and figure it out. And did you have like a work visa? Is that what you applied for to go to Canada or
Yeah, I had a 1-year work visa. And another funny detail to this story was like years ago when I was a teenager, me and my friends used to hang out in the park, and I found a 1-carat diamond ring in the ground. Just, we were just like sitting around, and my mom kept it for me. She was like, oh, you'll never be able to afford anything like that. Like you have to keep it safe. And I was like, Mom, I want to sell that diamond to pay for my flight to Vancouver. So it's funny. I just feel like, I don't know, like I'm in a computer game or something, like collecting bloom, like little diamonds that like give you next level access.
That's amazing.
And
that one gift that God gave you brought you to Canada, then to the States. It's great.
yeah, and I had enough money for like a month saved up, and I just did everything that I could. I handed out my resume to so many people. I just went out there and spoke to everyone I knew. I mean, it turns out it was very easy to find a job in film production in Vancouver because it's one of the main industries out there, and so many people are involved in that industry. But I applied to temp jobs. Like I was really willing to do anything to stay there. And yeah, that definitely taught me a lesson that if you take a leap and you're willing to do whatever it takes and try everything you can, chances are that things can work out. So yeah, it was definitely a great lesson.
That's awesome. And so you eventually decided to move out of the film industry. So like, what was your next adventure after that?
Yeah. So
and
I
after
actually,
college. Yeah.
I in the process of taking my master's in the winter and just having the time of my life in Montreal, I was taking extra class. Like I was just having so much fun. It was like being a kid in a candy store. Like I was taking all these extra film classes. I was going to all these, film festivals and music festivals. And there was just so much arts and culture in Montreal. And it was my happy place. And having the freedom to really dive into all of that and to indulge so many different creative passions and hobbies. And, I was like making films and getting into photography and like learning to play guitar and all these things that I just never really kind of gave myself the time and space to explore. And then I would fly back and work like crazy in film production in the summer to, kind of fund my studies in the winter. Anyway, so that combined with my Saturn's return, for those of you who know astrology, combined with just, like really overdoing it and not listening to myself, I had like a big healing crisis. I had a big burnout, and just my whole life came screeching to a halt. I had headaches by 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I just had to let go of, all of my hobbies, social life, everything, and really start to focus on my health. And that's when I really started to listen to myself. And, I knew I couldn't go back and continue working in the film industry, which was like getting up at 4 a.m., 18-hour days. Like, it was very physically demanding working on film shoots. And I knew that I wanted something different. I knew that that's not what I wanted to keep doing for the rest of my life. And I'd kind of discovered the world of online entrepreneurship. I think I'd taken like a Manifest Your Soulmate, like online course, or, I was like diving down the rabbit hole on YouTube and learning creative visualization and meditation and all of these types of things. And So, you know, it came to my awareness that this was a potential avenue, and I knew I loved to travel and I wanted to continue doing that. But I thought I was going to have to like go back to school and get a whole new other degree and retrain. And, you know, I knew nothing about business. But my friend invited me out to Bali, where she's a doctor, and she was running an online education business teaching people about gut health, and she needed help with her social media. So she's like, why don't you come and you can stay with us and you can help us with like all of the editing for the YouTube videos and all of that stuff. So I was like, this is the breadcrumb, you know, that I've been asking for. And again, I put all of my stuff in storage in Vancouver and bought a one-way ticket. And I went out there and I was helping her, you know, I was living with her. So I was there for all of the meetings and really seeing the ins and outs of how she was running her online business. I was helping her out with her website and just kind of chiming in. And she recognized that I was really good at writing. And I'd never even really seen myself as a writer, even though obviously I'd been doing a lot of writing for the past several years in my studies. And, you know, I'd written for theater and things like that in the past. But I was like, oh, like maybe this is something this is a skill that I can use to start to get clients online and to like live my digital entrepreneur dream. So she put me in touch with one of her friends who was also a writer. I was like so nervous. I took her out for lunch and I was like, please, can you like tell me if you think I can do it, if you think I'm good enough? And she asked me all these questions like, do you keep a journal? Like what kind of things have you written before? And she was like, okay, it seems like you're a writer. It seems like you're going to make this work. And here's how I did it. And she was a romance novel editor, and she got all of her clients through Fiverr.com, which is like a freelance online website. And so I just started doing the same thing. I put up a gig for editing services, and it took me a couple weeks and I started getting clients. I was charging like almost no money, you know, like $5 for a gig. And I started getting reviews in and, you know, just started looking around and seeing what kind of things people were asking for on the platform. And I made a bunch of different gigs. I was doing voiceovers. I was doing sales copy, you know, because a lot of people needed that. People were like, oh, can you help me with my website? So I created more tailored gigs around that. And I realized that, you know, sales copywriting was the thing that I was really good at. People really needed the most help with and would pay the most money for. And that like took me the least time. So I really quickly specialized as a copywriter, started attracting a lot of coaches as clients. And that's really what introduced me to the coaching industry. And I discovered all these amazing people. I was like, who, you know, people would send me websites of coaches that they aspired to. And they were like, I want my website to look like this. And, you know, this is who was inspiring me. And so I inevitably ended up in a coaching program and was, you know, starting to take business courses to grow my business. And I started my own copywriting agency, hired a small team of writers, and then very quickly realized that like, I was doing a lot of money mindset work and really, you know, I had to do a lot of work on my mindset around money because I had a lot of hangups around it. It was very challenging for me. You know, I was like massively undercharging, and I started setting big goals and, you know, knew I had to raise my income to be able to go back to the West, back to Canada to be with my, you know, my partner and who was my boyfriend at the time. And yeah, so doing the money mindset work for myself, like that doubled my income. I very quickly replaced my income from film. I doubled that income a year later. And then I decided to launch my own coaching business, and I got to 6 figures within 13 months of launching that. And yeah, the rest is history, really. It was just like one step at a time. You know, I had no idea what any of these things were. And it just kind of was revealed to me as I kind of dove in and just followed my intuition.
You kind of you said yes to new experiences and opportunities and didn't allow like your fears or anything like that to hold you back. You just stayed open to the process, really.
Yeah. And, you know, I wish I could say I was just like fearless and courageous, but I really, you know, it felt like my back was against the wall, you know, with my health. And I knew there was nothing else. Like, it felt like every choice I made, it felt to me like there was no other option for me. You know, I was like, I never had any other type of office career, I knew that that wasn't an option for me because I have ADD and I just get really depressed when I'm stuck behind a desk in an office. Like I'd had that enough experience to realize that that wasn't for me. I knew I couldn't do film anymore. And I was like, well, yeah, just this is calling me. And then I was literally in Indonesia, you know, it was just like one step at a time. And it kind of, yeah, the universe put me in a place where I was kind of forced to make these choices for me. And yeah, obviously being willing to take the leap and
that's
take
amazing.
those opportunities.
And so what kind of coaching and what kind of coaches do you coach now? And are you still doing the copywriting and stuff like that, the sales copy?
So yeah, the way I work with clients now is I teach other coaches how to write copy and really get clear on their messaging and how to talk about their offers and how to get real clarity around what is, you know, the highest value that they can offer based on their skills and wisdom and experience. And so, you know, I built my business based around the high ticket coaching model where you work more in depth, you know, at higher price points with fewer people, which, you know, is great when you're starting a business because you don't need to have a giant audience. All you need is, you know, a handful of clients and you can make a lot of money and make a really big impact because you get to work really in depth with people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I support my clients with. And I also bring in astrology, which I found has been really helpful for, you know, one of the things that holds a lot of us back in online entrepreneurship is just doubting ourselves, right? And like not trusting our ideas or starting to launch something and then like questioning and being like, oh, is this the right thing? When, you know, when it looks like it's not working, instead of like really being like, no, this is who I am. These are my desires. This is the work that I believe in. These are the people that I know I'm here to serve, and really creating a clear, like feel good, sustainable launch plan and following through with it. And I find astrology is just a really helpful tool for that, because every time we're like, oh, you know, is this the right direction for me? Or is this really like what I'm best at? Like it's all there in our astrology charts. And it just helps me to support my clients to be like, no, like this is what you're here for. Don't doubt yourself, you know, like keep going, keep showing up, keep sharing your message, keep inviting people into your work, because that's ultimately what leads to the clients and the impact and the results and the transformation and the growth. So yeah, that's what I help clients with. And it's really fun. I love it.
You help them write the copy for their websites, but what about for, like, I guess if they understand their messaging, then when they do ads or something like that, yeah, then they'd probably be able to do that better for, yeah, you look like,
yeah,
go ahead.
All of it. So like when you want to make money, the most important thing is your offer, right? It's like, what do you want to sell to make that money? Like, how do you want to serve people? How much money do you want to receive? And what are you offering in return? So really getting clear on, and when it comes to high ticket, it's not just like, oh, you know, there's so many things that we can help people with. It's like, there's so many different offers we could put out, but what is the offer that is like really the culmination of what the most valuable experiences you have embodied in your own life? You know, like what is your truly most valuable wisdom, and how can we put that in an offer that shows who you are, that shows people why they should trust you to take them through that transformation. And once you're really clear on how to tell the stories that are going to communicate that offer successfully, you know, that's when all becomes the foundation for all of your content. So any ads that you're going to write, any free trainings or masterclasses or workshops you're going to use to grow your audience, all of your social media content, like you have this framework that's really, really, really clear on what you should use your precious time and energy to create, that's going to attract clients consistently into your world. And that's the piece where once you get that locked in, you know how to make money from any of your creative ideas, and you can grow and you can launch new offers, but really understanding how to take an idea, turn that into clients and money and sales, and to launch new offers successfully organically on social media. It's a pretty life-changing skill, right?
Yeah, it is. Because it's like even with our business, before I really understood who my so-called avatar was. Like, I felt like I was like all over the place, and like I knew that I had this message I wanted to share and this impact I wanted to make, but I wasn't doing any of that because I didn't know who my ideal audience was. And so once I discovered that, then everything changed. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and like all of our the clues are in our story. You know, I think sometimes people come in and they're like, oh, if I want to charge thousands of dollars, then I have to only work with like executive women and like people who make loads of money. And, you know, there's a lot of like pitfalls that people fall into. But everyone, and this is what I love astrology for, is like there's like we have very unique gifts and skills that are exactly what our soul client needs. And so when we know like what that uniqueness is about us, and we lead with that, and we know exactly what it is that our people need from us, you can, you know, it's easy for you to find each other, and it's easier for you to stand out amongst all of the squillions of other people on the internet right now.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, and understanding what problems their audience has so they know how to solve that problem. And then they can put that in their messaging as well. Because I know that like ads or messages that have the most impact in me are ones that it's like, oh, wow, that would totally solve that. I'm so going to buy that. You know?
Exactly. That's good marketing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how like diet pills and all that stuff work, because it always like lying to the person. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to change your eating or anything, but you will lose 30 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think people are getting smarter too. I mean, obviously marketers are extremely smart these days, but I think people, you know, we've been online for a while now. We're starting to be able to see more, hopefully more and more people are able to see, you know, people who are the real deal. And I think that's why women, especially coaches, tend to have much higher conversion rates than like other typical businesses, is because we know how to connect through emotion and through storytelling, and because we genuinely care. You know, we care about the work that we do. We care about the clients that we serve. And when people can feel that, and when you let people really get to know you, it's much easier to make sales from people who have, you know, maybe discovered you more recently because they feel like they know you, and then that trust is there.
Yeah, exactly. And so what would you say is probably like one of the top 3 areas that you've seen like some coaches that they've had the biggest problems with? And what do you think were like some of your suggestions where you made the biggest impact in them? Like, you know, 1, 2, or 3, whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Number 1 is not being specific in your storytelling. So, you know, obviously there's a reason most of us do the work that we do. It's because we've experienced massive transformation in our own lives because of the teachers and mentors that have helped us. And we've learned a lot, right? And we're always consuming information these days. And so it can be very easy, especially when you're showing up online and you're, you know, it takes a lot of courage to share your story and to be vulnerable on the internet in public, right? There's so many gremlins that live in the back of our head that are like, oh, like what's Aunt Annie gonna say? Or like, what's like Joe from high school gonna say when I write this and I hit publish on my post, right? There's so many, we're like self-censoring, and we're always afraid to be rejected, and we're always afraid to be criticized. So one of the ways that people hide, and a lot of the time we don't even realize we're doing it, is we just kind of like, oh, we're like, oh, I need to write a social media post today. I need to sell my offer. I need to show up, right? I need to create some content. And we just kind of regurgitate other things that we've learned from other teachers and other things that we've read. And we use what's really quite fluffy personal development language, like, you know, I don't know, improve your life, or like have a breakthrough, or live the life of your dreams. This type of language, which it's not inaccurate, right? Like, I'm sure it's all true, but it doesn't really give your client enough information to know who you really are. And so the key to this is to get specific in your storytelling. So if, you know, I always say, just write what you feel inspired to write, but then come back to it and ask, like, how can I insert some more details of my own life to illustrate this point that I'm making? So instead of saying like, live your best life, you'd be like, okay, well, like, what do you mean by living your best life? Like, what paint the picture of what you living your best life looks like. So you'd be like, okay, let me add a sentence like, live your best life. And, you know, I'll use myself as an example, like be able to travel the world, or be able to, you know, not schedule any calls before 11 a.m. or be able to make 6 figures, only taking 3 days a week of client calls, right? Like get into the specifics, because your version of a dream life might be very different from a lot of other people. So the more you can give those specifics, it helps your people to be like, oh, like that's the version of a dream life that I want. So that's the person for me, right? So don't be fluffy, you know, use specifics and get as specific as possible. And it's surprising how challenging that can feel, but that's really like the vulnerability that creates that connection that's really gonna make connections with new clients faster. So I would say like that's definitely the top one. I think probably number 2 is, and obviously social media is changing every single year, right?
Yeah.
It's so different from when I started, and it's very easy to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
There's even within one channel, like Instagram on its own is like, you can do stories, you can do reels, you can do carousels, you can do live streams, like that, you know, it's like never ending how many pieces of content you can create. And I think sometimes just because we're showing up or just because we're spending time on the app means that we're taking action towards making sales in our business. But if you aren't making the money that you want, the very simple focus is take a sales generating action. What is a sales generating action? It's actually taking an action that could lead to somebody paying you money. So ask, you know, like talk about your offer, invite people to join it, share the link for people to buy. You know, these types of activities, like even to this day, I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I still have my daily habit tracker, and I still like tick off every day, like, did I sell my offers today? Because the more action you take to create sales generating actions, the more money you're going to make. And that's just a simple fact. So don't, you know, look back on your content and be like, how many times did I actually talk about my offer? How many times did I actually invite people to buy? And that's another way that we just kind of like self-sabotage if we're like a little bit scared about, you know, sharing our prices or, you know, really walking our talk and going after the things that we want. So I would say those are probably the 2 biggest things.
That's awesome. And then, so one of the ways you've been able to really help make an impact would be what? Like you just help them dig through all that, right? To like, cause sometimes I'm known for that. Like I'll want to just stop at like the surface level because I hate going deep, or I'm just like, my anxiety is just like, okay, I don't want to go that far. Like I'm not going to answer that right. It's just like all this negative, like you said earlier, gremlins happening in the back of our head. So, and so I'm assuming, answer that. Sorry.
Yeah. So my like zone of genius is helping people who are super creative, have loads of ideas, have really big hearts, like want to make a big impact, and like have the capacity to, you know, like have many gifts and skills and talents and ways that they could and desire to help people, and to really turn that into sustainable daily habits that lead to consistent income. So getting really clear on what is your income goal? How much money do you want to make? And how do you want to make it? These are very simple questions. But when it comes down to like actually looking at your calendar and being like, are you taking the actions that are going to bring this dream to life? And to create habits and to find ways that actually work for you, because we all know someone can give you the exact step-by-step strategy, but if it's not right for you or you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it consistently. So yeah, it's a dance between finding out what you're actually really good at and what's accessible to you, because there's 1,000,001 ways that you can make money sharing your gifts. But just actually making those decisions, making a clear plan, a clear launch plan that feels really sustainable and really good, even if, you know, no matter what phase of life you're in. Like I've been through so much chronic health stuff. I've immigrated to 2 different countries. Like, you know, I've been through like miscarriage, like life is gonna life, right? So we have to build businesses that are sustainable no matter what phase of life we're in, no matter what we're going through, no matter what our bodies are going through, because as women, we're, our hormones change every single freaking week. So we have to know what are those bare minimum things that are going to lead to consistent income, that I know if at the least I can take action on these things, I'm going to create momentum towards my goal. And, what happens once we have that clear plan? Yeah, like you said, all the gremlins are going to come out and it's going to feel uncomfortable. So it's so important to have support with that, because we all go through that. And like, the way to make it easier is just add more support. I think that's the one thing that it took me a while to get. And so many women I've heard say, I feel like I should be able to do this. It's like, no, like nothing big and transformational and exciting and impactful is actually possible without a lot of support. And if you're feeling like things feel hard, or they feel like insurmountable, or you feel stuck, the answer is just to add more support. Like, you can never have too much support, and there's always a way to create it, no matter what phase of life you're in. And that's really about getting creative and shifting your mindset and finding the path of least resistance to just create that momentum, because
be open to new things.
Yeah. And it's amazing how quickly results can come, when we have that level of focus and follow through.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about your book that you're going to be publishing.
Yeah, this has been probably the biggest project I've ever worked on in my whole life, outside of my business. And it didn't take me that long to write. It took me under a year. And I literally just wrote the whole thing from start to finish. But editing it has been a process, let me tell you. And I've been facing a lot of resistance. It's like getting to the end of the process and actually publishing the thing and getting it out there. But I'm so close. I was working on it this morning, and I'm going to self-publish, which I've never done before. I'm in the very final stages of the edit, and then I'm going to get it to a copy editor. And I'm hoping it will be published before the end of the year. And it's called The Six-Figure Creative, How to Heal Your Relationship with Money to Do More of the Work That You Love. And it really just shares my story. And I went from an absolute, complete and total hot, anxious mess. When it came to my relationship with money, I was very avoidant. I had a lot of debt. I didn't talk about it. I didn't look at it. I was very disorganized. I have ADHD. So I felt very, very overwhelmed. And it was actually in healing my relationship with money that brought up a lot of trauma for me to heal around, abuse that I had experienced as a child that had led to patterns of me not feeling secure and feeling like I didn't have the power to take care of myself and feeling really overwhelmed. And money really became a trigger for all of those feelings for me. And so, I'd avoided, I'd suppressed a lot of that. But in dealing with my relationship with money, which was absolutely unavoidable once I, became an entrepreneur, that really became the gateway for me to really deeply heal and to really take care of myself at whole new levels, which actually, brought me so much more freedom in my creative expression and in my business. And I've come a long, long way. Obviously, I'm not perfect in my relationship with money, but it just showed me how much we don't talk about it enough, and how much, it really is a taboo. And there's a lot of shame associated with money and how much we make and how we make it, especially as women, especially as creatives. And that I really believe that in doing this work, in healing our relationship with money, it gives us so much more power to do whatever we want and to, make the impact that we want to make, to have the money that allows us to support our health, our families, our communities, to make the impact that we really care about. And it's really just a set of skills and tools and a willingness to, change our daily habits and our behavior, and being willing, we're capable of so much more than our mother's generation, our grandmother's generation, our great-grandmother's generation. And that's really a privilege and an opportunity that we have. There's so much accessible and available to us to make an impact, to do whatever work we want to do, to work from home and raise families and, take care of our health and really live life in accordance with our values outside of, a lot of the systems and structures that just haven't been working for such a long time. And, it's looking at our relationship to money and how we can have an empowered relationship to do the things that we want to do and to live in the ways that we want to live. So it shares my money story. It shares how my upbringing led to my belief systems and how really looking at that and choosing to shift my identity in relationship to money really was the thing that allowed me to get to earning 6 figures in a year in a business that I love with way more freedom, while recovering my health, while writing a book, while doing all of the things that I really wanted to do in my life. So I share the main tools that I think are the most important for people to really shift their relationship with money and to have more financial freedom.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, there's a lot of people. I know my relationship hasn't always been the best with money. So, yeah, definitely let me know when that book gets released. Where are you going to be publishing it? Are you going to be doing it on Amazon?
Yeah, I'll be on Amazon. And yeah, if you follow my social media at Creative Magic Club and my website with sarahmac.com, I'll share announcements, and I'll share some like goodies and some fun launch things to get people excited about the book.
Are you going to do like a pre-launch where people can reserve a book ahead of time and buy it the day that it gets published and available on Amazon?
I don't know. Yeah, I've never published a book
that's a whole
before.
other marketing thing behind that. Yeah.
Yeah. All I know is I really want to publish it myself because I want to show that it can be done, and you don't need to, I hate asking for permission from other people. I, want to be my own publisher. I don't want anyone else's input on my book. And yeah, I want to show people that you can create, and share your message and your stories, and you can reach audiences with it without other people's permission, without other people's funding. But yeah, I've never done it before, so we'll see how it goes. I'm probably going to keep it simple, but yeah.
Because I guess the real tell will be people getting excited and sharing it and buying it and stuff like that, and the reviews that you'll get on Amazon. And so those are really the people that it matters to hear from. And so I think that's great. Congratulations, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So, do you want to share any last thing with our audience, before we go, and, maybe share like your website? Cause it says with sarahmac.com is your website.
Okay. Yeah. I have a ton of free resources. So definitely check out my podcast, Creative Magic Club. And I have a really great free resource that people have been loving that I made recently, which is called Cosmic Attraction Copywriting, which is a free 5-part training series, which walks you through the main changes that I had to make in my storytelling to consistently be attracting clients into my, $5,000, $10,000 offers. And which part of the astrology chart I think is really, really powerful for helping you to understand what stories to tell about yourself that are really gonna show people how valuable you are and how life-changing your work is. So you can find that on my website. I definitely recommend checking that out, but I always am launching a lot of free resources. So definitely just join my email list through my website and follow me on social media to take advantage of those.
All right. That's amazing. So at Creative Magic Club and with sarahmac.com. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on today. All the links are in the description. And that's it. I appreciate you. And then I hope you have an amazing day.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. Thanks, Jacqueline.
All right. Same here. Thank you. Everyone, thank you so much for joining another podcast with the Your Love podcast. You can join us and get our planner, an 18-month You Are Loved planner, which will help create more harmony and balance in your lives. I truly appreciate you. Thank you. And go to, with the 1-hour mastermind, go to youarelovedplanner.com. That's youarelovedplanner.com.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of You Are Loved. If you have any topic ideas or would like to be a guest on the show, please hit us up on Instagram at youareloved.store.